The message had been clear. Bring your world's apex predator, or don't come at all. Marcus Webb read it again on his datapad as the shuttle descended through Threshold Station's atmospheric envelope, the words glowing against the darkness of space behind them. 23 hours ago, the Galactic Covenant had issued their ultimatum to Earth's delegation. Every species seeking entry into the interstellar community had to participate in the Crucible, an ancient ritual where civilizations demonstrated the lethality of their homeworld by presenting their planet's deadliest creature. It was meant to be a test of pride, of strength, of worthiness. The other species had months to prepare. Humanity had gotten less than a day. "Sir, we're receiving docking clearance," Lieutenant Sarah Okonkwo announced from the pilot's seat, her hand steady on the controls despite the slight tremor in her voice. "Base 17. They've upgraded our containment requirements." Marcus allowed himself a grim smile. "Good. They're taking us seriously." Behind them, secured in the cargo hold with enough restraints to hold an orbital strike vehicle, their entry into the Crucible waited. Marcus could hear the occasional thump as 700 kilograms of prehistoric murder tested the limits of its prison. The other delegates had no idea what was coming, and that, Marcus thought, was exactly the point. The arena of proving was older than human civilization, a colossal amphitheater carved from a single asteroid, artificially spun for gravity, its walls inscribed with the names of 10,000 species who had passed through its gates. Holographic banners flickered in the recycled air, each one displaying the sigil of a different stellar nation. Marcus walked into the preparation chamber, his boots clicking on floors that had witnessed countless similar arrivals. Around him, other species made final checks on their entries. He could see the crystalline Jather sealing their void phantom in a containment field that bent light around it. The insectoid Krell-9 were restraining something that looked like a living tornado of chitin and razor wire. And then there was the favorite to win. High Chancellor Vormalik of the Saurian Dominion stood beside a massive stasis pod, his scaled face arranged in what Marcus had learned to recognize as a supremely satisfied expression. The Dominion had ruled this sector for 3,000 years, and they weren't about to let upstart humans embarrass them. "Ah, the Terrans," Vormalik's voice rumbled through his translator, each word dripping with condescension. "I'm told you barely made the deadline. Technical difficulties with your entry?" "Something like that," Marcus replied mildly. "Transportation logistics. You understand." "Of course." Vormalik's eyes, triple-lidded in yellow, tracked to the massive container behind Marcus's team. "That is a rather substantial containment unit for such a young species. Don't tell me you've brought one of your extinct megafauna? I hear your planet once had mammoths." "How quaint." Several nearby species chittered with laughter. Marcus just smiled. "Not extinct. Very much alive. We call him Titan." "Titan," Vormalik repeated, testing the word. "How dramatic." "Well, I suppose we'll see how your Titan compares to the Omega Ravager. My contribution has a documented kill count of 47 sentient beings and once destroyed an entire mining colony single-handedly." "Impressive," Marcus acknowledged. "How old is it?" 12 years. "Prime of its life." 12 years, Marcus echoed. "Titan is 63. That got Vormalik's attention. His eye membranes flickered. 63 years? And it's still viable. Oh, he's more than viable. He's barely past middle age for a species. They live past 100. Keep growing the whole time." The laugh died in Vormalik's throat. The announcement chimed through the chamber. "All delegations, proceed to the arena. The Crucible begins in 10 minutes. Marcus took a deep breath and keyed his calm. "All right, people, let's show them what a death world looks like." The arena floor was 60 meters across, reinforced with force fields and lined with energy barriers designed to contain everything from plasma-based life forms to creatures that existed partially in subspace. Seated in the tiered galleries above, representatives from 83 stellar nations watched with varying degrees of interest and superiority. Humanity was new, unknown, unproven. That was about to change. The Grand Arbiter, an ancient being of the Conclave whose species had evolved past physical form, manifested as a pillar of golden light at the arena's center. Its voice resonated directly in every mind present, bypassing language entirely. We gather for the Crucible. Each species shall present their world's apex. Each shall demonstrate why their civilization has earned the right to stand among the stars. We begin with the eldest species present. The Dominion went first, of course. Vormalik stood in the presentation circle as his containment pod was lowered into the arena. Honored Arbiter, assembled delegates, I present the Omega Ravager of Soros Prime. The pod opened, and Marcus had to admit, it was impressive. The Ravager stood 4 meters tall, built like a nightmare crossbreed between a bear and a mantis. 6 limbs, each tipped with serrated claws that glowed with bioelectric energy. Armored hide that shimmered with defensive scales. Eyes that tracked the crowd with clear, malevolent intelligence. Vormalik triggered the demonstration. Combat drones deployed, firing particle beams and kinetic rounds. The Ravager dodged, weaved, and tore through them like they were made of paper. Its claws cut through reinforced steel. Its roar shook the arena floor. The crowd erupted in appreciation. The Ravager, Vormalik announced proudly, has evolved on a world where every species is a predator. Only the strongest survive. This specimen has hunted for 12 years, and nothing has escaped it. More species followed. The Jathur's Void Phantom, a creature that existed partially in subspace and could phase through solid matter to reach its prey. The Krell-9 Swarm Queen, commanding 1,000 drones in perfect synchronization. The Yathgar presented something that looked like liquid mercury with teeth. Each demonstration was met with applause, analysis, comparison. Then it was humanity's turn. Marcus walked into the presentation circle, his team flanking him, the massive containment unit rolling behind them on anti-grav platforms. The crowd's attention was polite but tepid. Humans were novelties, their planet only discovered 5 years ago, their technology considered primitive, their biology fragile. This was about to be educational for everyone. Ambassador Marcus Webb of Earth, the Arbiter, intoned, "Present your world's apex." Marcus planted his feet and looked up at the assembled species. When he spoke, his voice carried across the arena with the help of amplification fields. Honored Arbiter, delegates of the Covenant, my name is Marcus Webb, and I represent the 3rd planet in the Sol system, a world we call Earth. Before I introduce our entry, I need you to understand something about where we come from. He paused, letting the silence build. Earth is what xenobiologists call a Class 7 death world. Our gravity is 30% higher than galactic standard. Our atmosphere contains free oxygen at concentrations that would cause combustion reactions on most civilized worlds. Our sun bombards us with radiation that strips DNA and causes cellular breakdown. 71% of our surface is covered in liquid water saturated with sodium chloride, a compound that corrodes most metals and is toxic to the majority of carbon-based life. A few species shifted uncomfortably. In Earth's history, we've had 5 mass extinction events. The worst killed 96% of all species on the planet. And yet, life not only survived, it thrived. It evolved. It became more dangerous with each iteration. Earth didn't produce one apex predator. It produced thousands, all competing with each other in an arms race that's been running for 3.8 billion years. Marcus gestured to his team. What I'm about to show you is not the strongest creature on Earth, not the fastest, not the smartest, not the most poisonous. What you're about to see is something else entirely, something that represents a different kind of apex. He nodded, and the containment unit's locks disengaged with heavy, resonant clangs that echoed through the suddenly quiet arena. This is Crocodile porosus, saltwater crocodile. This particular male, designated Titan, is 5.6 meters long, weighs 740 kilograms, and is 63 years old. His species has existed, largely unchanged, for 94 million years. They are biologically immortal. They survived the extinction event that killed the dinosaurs. They are, by every measure, evolution's perfect predator. The front of the container lowered like a drawbridge, and Titan emerged. The first thing everyone noticed was the sound. It wasn't a roar or a screech. It was something deeper, older, a resonant hiss that seemed to bypass the ears entirely and speak directly to the hindbrain. Every species in that arena, regardless of their evolutionary history, felt that sound on an instinctual level. It said, "Predator." Titan moved with the unhurried confidence of an apex that had never known fear. His body was covered in overlapping osteoderms, armored scales that looked like dark jade and bronze, each one a separate plate of keratin and bone. His eyes were the color of molten gold, with vertical pupils that tracked across the arena with cold, calculating precision. But it was his presence that truly commanded attention. He moved like water made solid, each step precise and deliberate. His tail, thick as a grown human's torso, dragged behind him with enough mass to crush bone. His legs were splayed in that characteristic reptilian stance, low to the ground, but there was coiled power in every line of him, power that could explode into motion in a fraction of a second. Marcus let the silence stretch, let every species in that arena really look at what Earth had created. Titan weighs 700 kilograms, Marcus continued, his voice cutting through the stillness. His bite force has been measured at 3.7 million pascals. That's 16,000 newtons, or enough pressure to crush a titanium alloy cube. His jaws contain 68 teeth, each designed not to chew, but to grip, to hold, to never let go. He signaled his team, and they activated the test apparatus, a mechanical construct designed to simulate prey, built from military-grade materials and equipped with force sensors. Velkar felt his respiratory system constrict. "So we made a deal," Zixanar said. "We would share our technology, our knowledge, our place among the stars. And in exchange, they would send their best warriors here. Not to learn how to fight, they know that better than we ever will, but to learn how to fight alongside us. To understand that violence isn't always the answer. To integrate their enthusiasm with our principles. They're quiet in your class because if they weren't, if they actually contributed their tactical insights, they would terrify their fellow students. They would demonstrate that every scenario you present has at least 3 solutions more efficient and infinitely more brutal than anything you've taught. They stay silent because their human commanders ordered them to. Because speaking up would reveal exactly what they are. And what are they?" Velkor whispered. Zixidar turned from the window, and his expression was grave. Apex predators learning to live among prey. The next day, Velkar stood before his class with a new understanding. He watched the 3 humans take their seats in the back row. Watched them fold their hands and prepare to listen. Watch them wear the mask of civilized students while their minds probably cataloged threat vectors and calculated response times. "Today," he began, his voice steadier than he felt, "we will discuss siege warfare. I'd like to open with a hypothetical." Lieutenant Shin met his eyes across the classroom. For just a moment, Velkar saw past the polite student facade, saw the predator underneath. Saw the same patient calculation that her ancestors had used to hunt prey across savanna grasslands for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. And he understood why she stayed silent, not from lack of knowledge, but from an abundance of mercy. Three months later, when the Krell separatist fleet launched their surprise attack on the Academy, Velkar finally saw what humans could do when silence was no longer required. The attack should have overwhelmed the station's defenses. The Krell had brought 4 warships against what they believed to be a lightly defended training facility. In their tactical calculations, they'd accounted for the Academy's defensive batteries, the possibility of a distress call reaching nearby fleet elements, even the combat capability of Krell students who might side with the Federation. They hadn't accounted for 3 humans. Lieutenant Shun had taken control of the Academy's defensive systems within 40 seconds of the first shot. Not through authorization. She'd bypassed it entirely, rewriting access protocols faster than the AI could flag the intrusion. Corporal Reed had organized the terrified students into defensive positions that turned the Academy's corridors into a nightmare for boarders. And private first classing had done something with the communications array that Velkar still didn't fully understand, but which had somehow convinced the Separatist fleet that they were facing a full Federation battle group. The engagement lasted 9 minutes. When the Federation relief fleet arrived, they found the Academy intact, the students safe, and 3 Krell warships crippled by defensive fire so precise it had disabled their engines without destroying them, preserving the crews inside. The 4th warship had retreated the moment its captain realized what he was actually fighting. Velkar found Lieutenant Chun in the aftermath, standing in the shattered remains of what had been the tactical hull. She was checking on wounded students, her uniform singed, a cut above her eye leaking the red blood that seemed so symbolically appropriate for her species. "You saved everyone," he said. She looked at him with those predator eyes, and this time her smile was genuine. "We told you we were learning, sir." "Learning what?" "How to protect instead of destroy. How to disable instead of kill. How to save people who would have been acceptable casualties in the wars my ancestors fought." She paused, looking around at the students, Zephrosians, Krell, Luminari, even a few Thravians, all alive because 3 humans had stood between them and death. Violence is easy, instructor. Any predator can kill. But choosing not to when you have the capability, that's what separates soldiers from murderers. That's what you've been teaching us, even if you didn't know it. Velkar understood then. The humans hadn't been silent from shame or fear or inadequacy. They'd been silent because they were students in the truest sense, learning not facts or techniques, but wisdom, learning that their tremendous capacity for violence was a tool to be wielded with precision, not a hammer to strike with every time they encountered a nail. The Galactic Federation had given humanity the stars, and humanity, those quiet, watching, waiting apex predators, had chosen to protect them. Vormalik finally found his voice. "Ambassador Webb, while impressive, I must point out that size and age do not automatically confer superiority. My Ravager has documented kills." "Against what?" Marcus interrupted, and there was steel in his voice now. "Against other predators on Soros Prime? A world with 0.78 g gravity and a temperate climate? Respectfully, Chancellor, your world is a paradise compared to Earth." He gestured to the holographic display, which shifted to show comparative planetary data. "Earth's biodiversity is 43 times higher than the galactic average. We have more predator species on a single continent than your entire planet has ever produced. And they're all trying to kill each other every day in every biome, from the deepest ocean trenches to the highest mountain peaks." Marcus walked closer to Titan, who had returned to his patient stillness but watched everything with those ancient, calculating eyes. "Titan here is from the Australian territory, which humans consider one of the most dangerous places on our planet. And you know what the truly insane part is? He's not even in the top 10 deadliest things there. We have spiders whose neurotoxin can kill in 15 minutes. We have jellyfish whose sting causes pain so severe that victims beg for death. We have snakes, sharks, octopi, cone snails, stonefish, blue-ringed octopi, box jellyfish, irukandji jellyfish. The list goes on. Australia is evolution's weapons testing ground." He turned back to face the assembled delegates, and his smile was sharp enough to cut. "And we humans? We vacation there. We surf those waters. We swim in those oceans for fun, because we grew up alongside apex predators like Titan, and we learned something important. We learned that on Earth, you're either predator or prey, and we damn sure weren't going to be prey." Marcus's voice rose, filling the arena. "Humanity hunts creatures like Titan, not because we have to. We have easier food sources. We hunt them because they're there, because they wander too close to our settlements, because we want their skin for fashion. We've been hunting them for 200,000 years, and they've been hunting us right back. And the only reason we're winning is because we learned to work together, to plan, to outsmart, to outlast. He gestured broadly at the arena. Every species here evolved in their own pressure cooker, I understand that. But Earth's pressure cooker was set to extinction event, and the timer was constantly running. We didn't just survive, we thrived. We became endurance predators. We can track prey for days without stopping. We can throw projectiles with enough force and accuracy to kill from 100 meters. We can communicate complex tactics in real time. We learn to use tools, to make fire, to alter our environment to suit our needs. Marcus locked eyes with Vormalik. Your Omega Ravager is a magnificent hunter, a product of 3,000 years of Dominion breeding programs and genetic optimization. But Titan? Titan is a product of 94 million years of natural selection in the most hostile environment evolution ever created. Every instinct he has was earned through countless generations of his ancestors dying to things even more dangerous than they were. He let that sink in for a moment. Titan represents something you need to understand about Earth and about humanity. We come from a world where things like him are considered a manageable threat, a known danger that we've learned to live alongside, where children are taught from age 5 how to identify a crocodile's territory and avoid it, where we build our cities knowing that there are ancient predators in the water that see us as prey. Marcus's smile turned absolutely feral. So when you ask humanity to present our apex predator, understand what you're really asking. You're asking us to quantify 4 billion years of evolutionary warfare. You're asking us to demonstrate the kind of lethality that our world produces as background noise. You're asking us to show you what normal looks like on a Class 7 death world. He spread his arms wide. This is normal for us. Titan is one of millions of his species, and his species is one of thousands of apex predators. And those apex predators are what humanity evolve alongside, what we learn to hunt, what we learn to outsmart and outlast. The Grand Arbiter's presence shifted, focusing intently on Marcus and the motionless crocodile beside him. Ambassador Webb, you present a formidable specimen, but the Crucible is not merely about biological capability. It is about understanding. What does your apex predator teach us about humanity? Marcus had been waiting for this question. This was the entire point. What Titan teaches you, honored Arbiter, is patience, strategy, the long game. He walked over to Titan, standing close enough to be within striking range, a fact that made several species in the audience visibly nervous. But Titan remained still, merely watching Marcus with those ancient eyes. Crocodiles are ambush predators. They don't chase. They don't announce their presence. They wait. They watch. They learn. And then, when the moment is absolutely perfect, when every variable is in their favor, they strike with overwhelming force and precision. It's not about being the fastest or the strongest. It's about being the smartest, the most patient, the most prepared. He turned to face the arena galleries. Humanity learned from predators like Titan. We learned that raw power isn't enough. We learned that the hunter who waits, who plans, who understands their prey and their environment, that's the hunter who survives. We learned to think generations ahead. We learned that sometimes the best strategy is to be still and let the universe come to you. Marcus's expression grew serious. But we also learned when to strike. And when we do, when humanity commits to action, we do it with the same explosive, overwhelming force that Titan uses. We don't do half measures. We don't do warning shots. We assess, we plan, we wait for the perfect moment, and then we execute with absolute conviction. He gestured to the assembled delegates. You're considering humanity for membership in the Galactic Covenant. You're wondering if we're ready, if we're civilized enough, if we're sophisticated enough to join the stellar community. His smile returned, but there was no humor in it now. But maybe you should be asking yourselves different questions. Like, do you want a species that learned to hunt alongside creatures like Titan as your allies? Or would you prefer we remain isolated on our death world, evolving ever more efficient ways to kill, until we inevitably find our way into space on our own? The silence was deafening, because make no mistake, Marcus continued, his voice dropping to barely above a whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the arena. Humanity is already out here. We're already expanding. We're already learning, adapting, improving. The only question is whether we do it as part of your community or outside it. He paused, letting that threat, and it was absolutely a threat, hang in the air. Titan here has never known fear. He's never met anything in his natural environment that could threaten him. He's the apex of the apex, the final boss of Earth's endless death game. And humanity? We hunt them. We track them. We catch them. We study them. We tag them and release them back into the wild because we're curious about their migration patterns. Marcus's voice rose again. The voting period was traditionally 3 solar days. Time for delegates to consult with their governments, to analyze the data, to compare entries and make informed decisions about which species had proven themselves worthy. Humanity's vote took 6 hours. Marcus spent those hours in the delegation quarters, reviewing the data from the other entries, trying not to think about what failure would mean for Earth. Humanity had one shot at this, one chance to prove they belonged among the stars. Lieutenant Okonkwo found him staring out the observation port at the stars beyond. "Sir, they're calling us back to the arena. The Arbiter wants to announce the results." Marcus took a deep breath. "All entries? No, sir. Just us. They've already decided. That could be very good or very bad." They walked back through Threshold Station's corridors, past delegates from species Marcus was only beginning to learn the names of. Some nodded respectfully. Others watched with expressions he couldn't read. A few, very few, looked away entirely. The arena was fuller now than it had been during the presentations. Word had spread. The humans and their ancient reptile had apparently caused quite a stir. Titan was back in his containment unit, though Marcus could see him through the transparent aluminum panels. Still watching, still waiting, still absolutely unbothered by the attention of 83 stellar nations. The Grand Arbiter manifested at the center of the arena floor. Ambassador Marcus Webb of Earth. Step forward. Marcus walked into the presentation circle, his heart hammering despite his outward calm. "The Crucible serves many purposes," the Arbiter began, its voice resonating in every mind present. "It tests courage, capability, understanding of one's own origins. But most importantly, it tests honesty. A species that understands its own dangerous nature is a species that can be trusted to control that nature." The golden light pulsed. Earth's entry was illuminating. Titan, as you call him, is indeed a remarkable specimen. But more remarkable was your presentation, Ambassador Webb. Your understanding of what this creature represents. Your willingness to present not strength, but strategy. Not power, but patience. Marcus's breath caught. "The Covenant has reviewed your entry. We have analyzed the biological data on Crocodilus porosus. We have studied your world's evolutionary history. We have examined the psychological profiles of humanity and what it means that you evolved alongside such creatures." A pause that seemed to stretch forever. The vote was unanimous. Marcus felt the universe tilt. Humanity is accepted into the Galactic Covenant with full membership privileges. You have proven not only that you understand lethality, but that you respect it, that you can quantify it, that you have learned to live alongside it. These are the qualities we seek in stellar neighbors. The arena erupted. Some species cheered. Others made sounds of approval in their own language. A few Marcus noticed Vormalic among them remained silent, but nodded in acknowledgement. However, the Arbiter continued, and the noise died down. "The Council has also added a notation to Earth's file. Your planet is hereby classified as a Class 7 Death World, and any species seeking to visit must undergo additional safety protocols. Furthermore, it is noted that humanity's comfort with apex predators suggests a psychological profile that is unique. The galaxy will be watching your species with great interest. Marcus couldn't help but grin. Understood, honored arbiter. We'll try not to disappoint. See that you don't. The galaxy has room for apex predators, Ambassador Webb. Just ensure that humanity remembers there's a difference between being dangerous and being a danger. We'll remember, Marcus promised. After all, we learn from the best. He glanced back at Titan, who had been watching the entire proceedings with those ancient, calculating eyes. And if Marcus wasn't mistaken, the old crocodile looked satisfied. 3 weeks later, Marcus stood on the shores of the Daintree River in Queensland, Australia, watching as the containment unit was carefully lowered into the brackish water. The Australian Wildlife Service had insisted on a full medical workup before releasing Titan back into his territory, but the old crocodile had passed with flying colors. Dr. Sarah Chun, the head of the Crocodile Research Station, stood beside Marcus with a datapad full of telemetry data. You know, when you contacted us about borrowing our largest male specimen for a diplomatic mission, I thought you were insane, she said, not looking up from her readings. Now, I think you might be a genius. I just showed them what Earth is really like, Marcus replied. Titan did all the heavy lifting. The container opened, and Titan emerged into the water with barely a ripple, as if he'd never been gone. For a moment, the massive crocodile floated at the surface, those golden eyes surveying his territory, checking if anything had changed, if any rivals had moved in during his absence. Then, satisfied with what he found, Titan sank beneath the surface and disappeared into the murky depths. He'll be fine, Dr. Chun assured him. Males like him are territorial. He probably already knows every other croc in a 50-kilometer radius is staying the hell away. He's the king of this river, and he knows it. Marcus watched the water where Titan had vanished. Somewhere down there, in the darkness, Earth's representative to the galactic community was already back to his ancient routine. Waiting, watching, patient as stone. We're going to need more crocodiles, Marcus said suddenly. Dr. Chin blinked. I'm sorry. For embassies, cultural exchanges, educational programs. The Covenant wants to learn more about Earth's ecosystem. Every species with a homeworld representation program has living examples of their planet's life. We're going to need ambassadorial crocodiles. Ambassadorial crocodiles, Dr. Chun repeated slowly. That's either the most insane thing I've ever heard or the most brilliant. I genuinely can't tell which. Why not both? Marcus grinned. Besides, can you imagine? Covenant embassies across the galaxy, each one with a crocodile pool. Welcome to the Terran Cultural Center. Please stay behind the barriers. Our exhibit bites. Dr. Chun laughed despite herself. You're going to give the xenobiologists heart attacks. Good. They should understand what they're dealing with. We're not like other species. We come from a world that's been trying to kill everything on it for 4 billion years, and we're the ones who survived long enough to achieve spaceflight. That's not something you hide or downplay. That's something you own. He turned away from the river, back toward the research station where his shuttle waited. Tell Titan thanks from me when you see him next. He did his species proud. I'll make sure he gets extra chickens at feeding time, Dr. Chin promised. Though honestly, I don't think he cares. That crocodile just spent 3 weeks as the center of galactic attention, and I'd bet anything. He was more annoyed about missing his regular meal schedule than impressed by alien technology. Marcus laughed. That's exactly why he was perfect. Unbothered. Ancient. Completely, utterly confident in what he is. That's the message Earth needed to send. We're not intimidated by you. We're interested in you. There's a difference. As he walked back to his shuttle, Marcus pulled up his datapad and scanned the messages that had accumulated during the return flight. Invitations to diplomatic functions, requests for interviews, proposals for scientific exchanges, and, buried in the middle of it all, a message from High Chancellor Vormalik of the Saurian Dominion. Ambassador Webb, a grudging congratulations on your successful entry into the Covenant. Your presentation was effective. Unorthodox, but effective. I may have underestimated both humanity and your Titan. I would like to invite you to Soros Prime for a diplomatic dinner. I believe we have much to discuss about apex predators, both biological and political. Also, I must ask, How does one acquire an ambassadorial crocodile? The Dominion Council was quite impressed with the concept. Respectfully, High Chancellor Vormalic Marcus smiled and filed the message for later response. The galaxy was full of apex predators, some scaled, some feathered, some existing as patterns of energy in crystalline matrices. But none of them, he thought, were quite as perfect as Earth's 94-million-year-old answer to the question of lethality. Somewhere in the dark waters of the Daintree River, Titan settled into his favorite hunting ground, a deep pool beneath overhanging mangroves where the current brought prey directly to him. His eyes broke the surface, watching, waiting, calculating. He'd been to the stars and back. He'd been presented before alien species from across the galaxy. He'd represented his entire planet in a contest of apex predators. And now he was back where he belonged, doing what his species had done. For 94 million years, waiting for the next prey to make a mistake. Some things Titan knew in his ancient, perfect way didn't need to change. Not when you were already evolution's final answer.